The one who leaves parties. Quietly, without goodbye. The archive has preserved this pattern for longer than memory. It appears in every century, every language, every generation. Not often enough to be called common, but too often to be called rare. It belongs to those who have mastered the invisible art of disappearing, not because they wish to be forgotten, but because leaving has always felt heavier than arriving. There is something curious about you. You have attended birthdays where no one noticed the exact moment you left, wedding receptions where your chair remained empty long before anyone asked where you had gone, office gatherings, family celebrations, college reunions, housewarming parties. You laugh, you listen, you contribute, and then, at some quiet, almost sacred moment, you slip away. No dramatic wave, no loud announcement, no circle of hugs, no "I'll see everyone soon," just the silent click of a door, and the night swallowing your footsteps before anyone can stop you. You have become astonishingly good at disappearing, so good that people often message you later, "Hey, when did you leave?" And you smile, because that was exactly the point. Many people believe this habit comes from shyness. The archive disagrees. Shyness wishes to avoid being seen. You are not avoiding being seen. You simply cannot bear becoming the center of the ending. There is a difference, a profound one. You can speak passionately when the conversation matters. You can comfort strangers. You can make an entire table laugh. But the moment departure arrives, something inside you quietly retreats. Because every goodbye asks the same invisible question. Will my absence matter? And somewhere inside you, a younger version of yourself still hesitates before hearing the answer. The archive has noticed another pattern. You often begin preparing to leave, long before anyone notices. Your body knows before your mind does. The room slowly grows louder. The conversations become harder to follow. The music somehow feels brighter than before. Nothing has changed. Yet everything feels heavier, almost as if your heart whispers. We've gathered enough. It's time. Not because you're bored, not because you're angry, not because you dislike the people around you, but because your emotional battery does not announce when it reaches empty. It simply stops glowing. Others push through exhaustion. You quietly recognize it and leave before you begin pretending to enjoy yourself. There are moments no one else notices. You stand near the doorway. Someone is laughing across the room. Someone is telling another story. Someone is opening another bottle. And for one brief second, you realize the party no longer needs you. That thought does not make you sad. It makes your decision easier. So you leave, not wanting anyone to interrupt their happiness simply because yours has become quieter. The archive has cataloged another remarkable behavior. You rehearse your exit, perhaps without even knowing it. You wait until everyone is distracted, until two conversations overlap, until someone's attention drifts elsewhere. You search for the smallest opening, not to escape, but to avoid becoming an event, because attention has always felt strangely expensive, even when it comes wrapped in affection, especially then. Some people love dramatic farewells. They collect hugs like souvenirs. They linger by the door for 20 minutes. Every goodbye becomes another conversation, another memory, another photograph. You have watched this happen countless times and secretly wondered how they make it look so effortless. Because for you, every additional goodbye feels like reopening a door that was already closed. Leaving once is difficult enough. Leaving 6 times feels impossible. So you choose silence. Not because your affection is smaller, but because your feelings have always traveled quietly. The archive has traced this habit far beyond parties. You leave phone calls quickly. You dislike long goodnight messages. You end conversations with simple words. You close browser tabs without finishing articles. You sometimes walk away from beautiful sunsets before the colors disappear. Not because beauty means less to you, but because endings have always carried an invisible weight. You have learned that leaving First somehow hurts less than waiting for something else to end. Few people know this, but after leaving, you rarely feel immediate relief. Instead, you replay everything. The joke you almost told. The person you didn't speak to enough. The smile you forgot to return. The friend standing alone whom you only noticed afterwards. As your car moves through sleeping streets, your mind quietly walks back through every room you have already left. You revisit moments no one else remembers, and somehow they become heavier after they are over. The archive has spent centuries studying souls like yours. One discovery appears again and again. You have always believed that your departure should create as little inconvenience as possible. This belief rarely appears on its own. It usually begins much earlier, in homes where emotions occupied too much space, in classrooms where speaking felt risky, in friendships where asking for attention felt selfish, in childhoods where becoming easy earned more peace than becoming visible. So your nervous system learned something extraordinary. Leave gently, need little, take up less space, become effortless to love, and, somewhere along the way, you became effortless to overlook. Listen carefully, because this page of the archive is often difficult to hear. You were never trying to disappear. You were trying not to burden anyone with your leaving. There is kindness inside that instinct, but there is also grief, because every quiet exit carried a hidden sentence. Please don't make this difficult. Not for yourself, for everyone else. The archive has another observation. You often stand at windows during gatherings, balconies, gardens, terraces, somewhere just outside the center. You watch people instead of interrupting them. You notice who feels lonely despite smiling, who laughs louder than they feel, who keeps checking their phone, who pretends not to notice being left out. You read emotional weather with astonishing accuracy. Because while others learn to command rooms, you learn to observe them. Invisible people often become exceptional witnesses. There is something beautiful and heartbreaking about the way you love. You rarely ask anyone to stay, even when every part of you hopes they will. You tell friends, drive safe, instead of, stay a little longer. You say, text me when you get home, instead of, I'm going to miss you. Not because the feeling isn't there, but because your love has always disguised itself as consideration. You translate longing into practicality. The archive wishes to correct one misunderstanding. You are not emotionally distant, quite the opposite. You feel departures so intensely that you reduce them whenever possible. Others wave because goodbye is easy. You disappear because goodbye echoes. Perhaps that explains something you've never understood. Sometimes, halfway home, a strange loneliness appears. Not because the evening was bad, but because no one watched you leave. A tiny part of you wonders, if I vanished this quietly, would anyone have stopped me? You dislike this thought. You almost never admit it. Yet it returns, not seeking pity, only certainty. The archive has searched every shelf for an answer. Here is what it found: the people who truly cared were never measuring the volume of your goodbye. They remembered the warmth of your presence, not the silence of your departure. The friend laughing because of something you said. The child who smiled when you knelt to speak with them. The colleague who relaxed because you listened without interrupting. These things remained, long after you had gone. Presence is not measured by exits. It is measured by what changes while you are there. And you have changed more rooms than you realize. Still, the archive wishes to ask you something, not as an examination, not as a challenge, simply as an invitation. The next time your hand reaches quietly for the door, pause, just for one heartbeat. Find one person, only one. Look at them, smile, and say, I'm heading home now. Nothing grand, nothing theatrical, nothing that feels borrowed from someone else's personality. Just one honest goodbye. Not because they need it, because perhaps a forgotten part of you does. The part that has spent years believing departures must always be invisible. the part still waiting to discover. That, taking up a little space at the end, does not erase the gentleness that has always defined you. The archive has never considered your quiet exits a flaw, only a language, one your heart invented long ago. A language that says, I hope I made your evening brighter. I hope my leaving doesn't make it heavier. It is a beautiful language, but beautiful languages can still learn new words. This file is now complete. It will remain here, waiting patiently.